Nothing.
Well,
The fans don't work.
maybe it was for the best.
B says it's because I overused them.
He's still trying to bust out your who sweats the most challenge.
Talk to us about the conduction system.
Oh,
How
it's
contains
me,
EKG?
So the heart's a cool organ, unlike other muscular organs. It
That are
does
uncool.
not require input from the nervous system to be on its own. You can cut it out from the body, give it energy and blood, and it'll be all on its own because it has pacemaker cells that we talked about yesterday. Those action potentials generally begin in the SA node, which is traditionally the pacemaker node of the heart. There will generally start impulses at a rate between 60 and 100. That impulse is carried through the atria through a tract known as Bachman's bundle. I don't know which picture to show you on, but Bachman, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that impulse is carried through the atria pretty much simultaneously, which allows them to contract simultaneously to keep everything coordinated. After, between there, the impulse is carried through internodal tracts between the SA node up in the top corner of the atria down to the AV node and the anterior portion of the right atrium. Those tracts continue the impulse. The AV node on its own does not actually create its own impulses, but the tissue around it, called junctional tissue, in the absence of impulses from the SA node, can produce impulses at a lower rate, generally about 40 to 60. From the AV node, which job is to slow conduction of this impulse, which allows the ventricles time to fill before they contract, so they actually pump out blood instead of air. Okay.
Super basic.
All right. After the AV node, it goes through the bundle of His, as it's called, which carries the impulse from the atria into the ventricles, where it splits off into two bundle branches, which travel down the intraventricular septum. And then Purkinje fibers, as they're called, they carry the impulse up and around the ventricles, allowing the coordinated beat of the heart. Now, do you want to draw the KG? So we'll show you where everything happens on a typical EKG strip on lead 2 as a reference. So yeah. This first upward deflection on an EKG is the P wave. This corresponds to atrial depolarization. This is when the SA node fires and allows the atria to depolarize. This little gap right here, known as the PR interval, is the amount of time when that impulse is being delayed by the AV node, which allows the ventricles time to fill before they contract, so it can actually pump out a maximal amount of blood. The QRS complex, it corresponds with ventricular depolarization. That's when the impulse is being carried through the bundle branches and up the Purkinje fibers. T wave corresponds to ventricular repolarization, which is when all those cells are repolarizing, preparing for another beat. The atria do repolarize as well, but that deflection gets hidden in the QRS complex because there's a lot more going on. There is sometimes a U wave shown on strips. You usually don't see it, but that corresponds to Purkinje fibers repolarizing themselves. And yeah, it continues. And it will continue.
All right, at any point in time, the heart is doing many, many things. Steps for the way that conduction works in conjunction with an EKG wave is shown partially by the numbers here.
questions while he's drawing? No? Yes?
The U-wave. I thought, well, the thing that I read said that they didn't really know what it was, other than it could be like hyperkalemia.
That's probably true.
Is it
Yeah, when I read it, it briefly corresponds to Purkinje fibers themselves repolarizing. I might have read that on something random.
That's what I read too, though. So.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I like
So
the idea of the
that's
mystery.
common
That's why I was.
for things that aren't necessarily common to different people saying different things.
It's a frustrating part of our field guide.
It is.
What's frustrating for you, Philip?
Different information and different sources.
Why is there different information from different sources?
Different types of research, better sources.
What did you say first? What was the first thing you said about one of the resources that you looked at?
What was the first thing I said?
Yeah, about one of the resources that you found. Specifically about the U-wave in this case.
That it was unknown.
There you go. So why is there so many different possible answers to it?
And nobody knows.
Because nobody really knows.
Okay.
But you were frustrated.
Which means I learned it.
You learned that there was a reason
She
you
didn't
don't
pull
know.
that out of her brain, she didn't read it.
And you remember that it's not known.
It's not really good.
I like it.
Okay, so what are you doing up there with those numbers? We're confused. Deconfuse us.
I'm so confused.
All right, so SA node depolarizes the atrium, which opens up your ventricular valves, which overfill your ventricles. The SA impulse is delayed to the AB node just slightly in order for those ventricles to overfill, at which point impulses travel down frontal branch to the split of the frontal branches and innervate the left ventricles and the left and right faces of the sinoatrial, or sinoventricular, or ventricular sinus, the face, left and right faces of the ventricular sinuses, where it travels down into the left and right bundle branches. The left bundle branch splits into the left anterior fascicles, which pretty much innervate the anterior and superior portions of the left ventricle, whereas their division into the left posterior fascicles has a much higher branching rate, which pretty much covers the posterior and inferior innervation of the backside of the ventricles. The right bundle branch isn't quite as extensive. It only actually branches off once into the Purkinje fibers and has a fairly short cord where it innervates the inferior, anterior, no, it's the superior anterior portion of the right ventricle. And as step 2 starts to depolarize the ventricles, step 3 is where the Purkinje fibers will start to repolarize the ventricles apart. See where?
Okay, there's a question?
I was just
Yeah.
curious, on the Purkinje fibers, when the signal comes through the bundle, fits down into the bundle, and breaks off in the right and left bundle branch, do they only travel through the front of the heart, or does it travel to the back of the heart? How is the whole heart?
So
Where do the fibers run? Just in the front?
the fibers are going to run toward the bottom of the heart, and what that's going to allow is for the heart to actually contract from the bottom. So the entire ventricles contract rather than kind of squishing from the top, and then they would get a little bit of turbulence
That's
in
where
the
the
top
atrium
portion of the ventricles where
So
you
do the
contract.
fibers run straight through the middle of the heart, or do they run to the front of the heart? How do the fibers run?
They're basically sewn into the epicardium of the heart itself from the branches. And yes, they, as far as I know, on the left side, they do branch to anterior and posterior parts of the heart, as well as inferior and superior. A little less so with the left ventricle, but it still branches off to the rear and front of the right ventricle.
Did that answer your question, or?
It is, I was curious if the fibers only run on one side of the heart, or the middle of the heart, or through the heart, and you did answer my question.
Terrible.
On the PQRST thing, can you just go over the bottom bars? it looks like?
Yeah, these are the phases of the heart as it cycles through depolarization, repolarization, and hyperpolarization. Quiescent phase is where there's really not much going on as far as the heart is concerned. You got venous return, and that's somewhat passively filling up the atria to where it can work with gravity to push blood into the ventricles. Like he said, whereas the ventricles are pushing blood from the bottom to the top muscularly for the Purkinje fibers, the Bachmann bundle, the anterior, posterior, and middle internodal pathways, as well as the Bachmann's bundle, is regulating all of those muscle movements to push blood down into the ventricles to overfill them. Because if the ventricle muscle isn't stretched, it doesn't work to optimum capacity. The muscles react better if they're stretched, and that's why you get overfilling. I don't know if that was part of the question, but.
So all of the fibers you're talking about right now, they're not contracting,
In what?
How do you mean?
like.
They're not muscle cells.
Yeah, these are specialized cells that are designed to carry the electrical impulse.
Right, including your Purkinje fibers?
Correct.
Okay, so what delays the contractile cells being triggered from the bottom up?
That's where your actual tracks. So you have your bundle branches that are going to carry the impulse to the bottom of the heart, so you can begin the depolarization wave
So
from the
there's
bottom.
a delay there, and then the bottom's contracted?
So yeah, you won't, like, when the impulse is coming through the bundle branches, you won't have this outside part of the heart depolarizing until it comes through and depolarizes up. Through the Purkinje fibers.
So how are you delaying?
Nothing's delayed. It's just the order.
He's the AV delayed it, is what you said.
Yeah. Is that what you're talking about? The delay between
You're
the
wondering
atrial
Well,
and
the
ventricular?
top
What?
part,
You made, or I think you guys, what she's getting at, you guys made the statement is that it starts its contraction from the bottom and goes up, but the signal starts at the AV through the bundle,
and it goes down.
and why doesn't it?
Okay,
Delay.
so when I said that, I was more responding to your question about where the fibers are. I wasn't necessarily saying that anything's delayed. I was talking about the actual anatomy of where the fibers carry the impulses first,
But
which is through the
But you're not wrong, the bottom does contract and pushes fluid
Yes.
up.
Yes.
Blood is the fluid.
The idea is to have everything contracted roughly the same
I
time.
can't read that.
Ejection.
Ejection phase. Which goes back to.
Well,
my
why-
question, which I don't think I finished.
Why does the current run from top to bottom, but the contraction run from bottom to top?
Yeah.
Because anatomy.
Because anatomy.
That conduction pathway protects it.
The
till it's
impulse
the
is-
bottom.
So
impulse travels
as it
through
goes through
the septum.
the bundle of his, it's not causing any sort of contraction, it's just running through the tube to
Yes.
carry the impulse down to the Purkinje fibers, and once it hits the Purkinje fibers, then it starts contracting.
Yes. I think.
And I also have a question. You said that between the SA node and the AV node, the fibers, what are those, the Bachmann bundle, the ones that?
Bachmann bundle goes to the.
So Bachmann's bundle
But
is
goes
going to
to the
carry
left
to the
atrium.
left atrium.
So you said something about that between the SA node and the AV node, the signal's delayed, but I thought that that was the purpose of the AV node, was to delay the signal after it.
The signal is not delayed between, the AV node delays the signal.
Okay, sorry.
So everything that originates in the SA node will eventually travel through the AV node.
and the AV node causes it,
Because the atria and the ventricles
so that the ventricles can.
are separated by a fibrous membrane. That's where the bundle of his has to carry the impulse through in order for it to make it to the ventricles.
Okay, wait, say that last part again, slowly.
So the atria and the ventricles are separated by a membrane, a thin membrane, which would prevent any impulse that begins in the SA node from making it to the ventricles unless it travels through the bundle of his.
You said that every signal that leaves the SA node goes to the AV node, does that include Bachman's that travels through the atria? And the signal-
No, that will, anything that goes from the SA node to make it to the ventricles will pass through the AV node. Bachman's bundle is its own thing to allow the less
Specialized bundles that only, yeah.
So Bachman's bundle is kind of like the Purkinje fibers to the atria.
What depolarizes the left atrium if Bachman's bundle is only for the right atrium?
Bachman's bundle carries it from the SA node to the left atrium.
The SNU
We're talking, this would be the left atrium.
Yeah, so in that drawing, it looks like it's only into the, so it goes into
There you
the
go.
left atrium and
Yeah.
then to the AV node?
No, that would just carry it to the left atrium. for Bachman's bundle. That just carries the impulse to allow both atria to contract.
What's the name of the
Uses
fiber
So
that
what's
runs
making this
from the SA
contract?
node to the AV node?
They're called internodal tracts. There is a little bit of debate.
There's anterior, posterior, and middle.
And do they actually initiate the right, the atrium for the?
They do. That's why there's anterior, posterior, and middle, so it can innervate the entirety of the right atrium.
Why does the line go up versus down on a EKG strip?
Which line? So, alright, the P wave.
The positive deflection?
Yeah, so what is, why?
So we're looking at, this is generally gonna be looking at least two, where you're looking at any electrical impulse traveling from here to here. You're gonna see an upward deflection when charge travels that way. The reason the T wave is an upward deflection instead of a downward reflection, because we're talking about repolarization, has to do with the lining of the heart and the way that electrical impulses will actually go through the membranes of the hearts. It's a bit of a complicated answer, but because the outside of the hearts is just the lining.
Generally,
It's the pericardium.
positive deflection is muscle movement towards an anatomical peak. Whereas you see positive reflection in the R wave because everything is repolarizing, it's reversed. So a positive deflection is going to actually, a deflection that looks positive actually going to be a negative deflection because it's the opposite action. Is that?
Confusing.
It was confusing to me.
I thought it was the like energy moving towards the loop.
Electrical activity?
Yeah,
So,
that.
Or
That's going beyond the purview of what their assignment was, so I'll hold off on that question for a couple of minutes. So they can stick with what they were assigned. Any more questions related to the heart and its translation to what the EKG waves are designed for?
Actually, yes. So why does like cellular death, or when they talk about an MI, why is infarction typically, I mean, in different stages, depression then elevation of the ST? Why is that?
that is also a little bit of what we're doing, but ST elevation is typically, because it's repolarizing too early. But I'm gonna defer that answer. I don't know yet.
I'll look on YouTube.
Any more questions for them?
That's also, well, that probably won't be an A and B. A and B. Wait, what?
Good job.